Okay, so I just watched Superman a couple hours ago. I guess it's just called Superman. Yeah, and this was, I believe, to be the first of many upcoming DC movies that are looking to build out the DC universe, if you will. Directed by James Gunn, I believe, who also directed the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy in the Marvel universe, is taking his hand at telling a DC story, and I think he did it very well. I personally really enjoyed this movie. So I'm gonna spoil again. Sorry, I don't really know how to tell reviews without including important details, but we'll get more abbreviated versions as we go on. But for now, we're going to talk about the whole movie. So this story focuses on a much younger version of Superman, Lois Lane, the entire cast of characters that you typically see in a Superman story. And it tells a story of a Superman that I haven't seen before. Normally the Superman that I see is one that's a little more polished, developed. He's kind of figured out who he is, and he's standing by those morals and serving people in a way that's very true to himself. But this Superman is a lot younger. He's not as strong. Seems like he's still kind of learning the limits of his powers. Opening scene, he just got beat by another villain who we'll learn about later, and basically goes on to show what a normal life is like in the day of Superman, and shows a little bit of the villains that he has to fight, the life that he lives as Clark Kent, his relationship with Lois Lane, touches on all of those things. And then there's this really transformative moment in the movie where Superman is faced with the possibility that he may not be who he thought he was his whole life. There is a message that is sort of referenced throughout the movie from his parents, and it turns out that there's more to the initial message, and Superman, when he initially thought that he was sent to Earth to protect it, he was really sent there to destroy it. And now he's posed with the question of, oh, who am I really? Am I a good guy or a bad guy, essentially? What has my life meant if this is what it was supposed to mean the entire time? And so he deals and grapples with that, and by the end of the movie, he's kind of taken on this new layer of character development and growth, because he was challenged with thinking about who he really is and either running from it or facing it. So overall, I think it was a really, really good story. I should take something with me to the theater, because I wrote all my notes on the first piece of paper that I could find. They're not very organized, but I want to touch on some of the stuff that really stood out to me. Okay, so right off the bat, the sound design was very punchy, and it felt like another layer of immersion that brought me into the movie. In addition to just the visuals, we watched it in IMAX, and we also watched it relatively close to the screen, which I don't normally do. I normally like sit all the way in the back, and I don't normally like to sit all the way at the front, but this time we did, and the screen was my entire view. There was no audience, there was no walls, so I was really like locked in to the movie, and then the sound kind of kept me there and elevated that whole experience. The sound effects, they didn't sound familiar or feel familiar. They all felt like kind of new sounds that I was hearing. yeah, they really took some time to reinvent what Superman's powers sound like and what it sounds like him flying through the sky and when his uh, laser vision or heat vision shoots from his eyes. I don't know. But yeah, a lot of time and care put into good sound design. Um, and then there's this whole sort of element of Superman being an American hero with American values and truth, justice, and the American way is what Superman stands for. But he didn't come out of the womb being like a perfect representation of American values, especially with the diversity in values that we have as Americans. He didn't come out just knowing how to be able to perfectly balance all of those different views. And so here we see, in this movie, we see a more raw version of his opinions on foreign affairs and civil rights and all of these different things that have a wide range of takes and perspectives depending on who you speak to. And that also gave us a good opportunity to see Lois and Clark's chemistry, which I've never been particularly interested in the animated series, which is where a large portion of my Superman content comes from, and lore comes from. But this really showed them as kind of like two sides of a same coin, where Clark is more open and trusting and curious about the world. Lois is more closed off, and they really kind of help and allow each other to understand different perspectives. There's also the really interesting sort of parallel to the immigrant story to America and Superman's story, him being an immigrant, technically speaking. He's an alien from another planet who adopted American values, and it's easy to not think about that when watching Superman as just this larger than life hero, but here watching him as a more human character struggling with trying to understand his identity and his place in the world. You get a real connection to that side of his story. And then I loved all of the scenes with Lois and Clark. They just seemed to have really good chemistry, even when they had friction, when they were fighting against each other. There's this really delicately balanced push and pull between them, where Superman or Clark says a side, and then Lois gives another perspective, and Clark says, "Well, what about this perspective?" And they go back and forth. They're not really like they're not butting heads to the degree where I just feel like it's two people bickering. They're really passionate and genuine about what they feel, and they're trying to articulate that to the other person. So yeah, two interesting characters and an interesting relationship. Nothing boring about it. The CGI, which has been like a topic of conversation in a lot of superhero Marvel movies about how it's getting really obvious that they're using CGI. It's looking like they're standing in front of a green screen, not really interacting with the world. I remember when that technology first started to kind of come out, the earliest movies I remember experiencing it with were Star Wars and a little bit Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings had a lot of practical effects too, so they had a good mix. I can't think of anything right now. Star Wars is the main one that's coming. War of the Worlds is another one that was pretty heavy on CGI, but now there's lots of criticism about how it just looks like they're interacting with a fake world, which I think if you do it right is advantageous, because you're dealing with like aliens and monsters and superheroes, and that is a fake world. But I think if you make it so cool that you don't care, like you don't have to convince me that it's, how do I say this? I just felt like they utilized CGI in a way that was very much in service to the cool stuff that make up a superhero world. Um, James Gunn did a really good job in Guardians of the Galaxy showing off superhero powers and how they might actually look like um, in like a physical application. Um, if bodies were moving around and flying, and I feel like utilizing CGI to imagine or visualize the physics of being a superhero can be really cool to look at if done correctly. We see a lot of that when Superman's fighting a giant monster. That looks different than him fighting a regular sized human, and like you feel that scale, and you feel like you're watching a real life battle, and there's heaviness and weight and speed when there's lighter, when it's just him moving around. Like that paired with good use of CGI really makes for an immersive world. Yeah, another thing that I liked about this movie was very heavy on messaging, which can be interesting at best, I think, and super annoying at worst. Like if you are trying to tell a message, and I just feel like you are saying this is what you should do because it's good, because I say it's good, and if you don't do it, then you're not as good as me. That there's been a lot of annoying versions of messaging in movies lately, but this messaging was really well woven into the fabric of the story and the characters, to where I felt like you don't have to agree with everything that they stand by. You just have to understand why they stand by it. And maybe that will help us get a little bit more connected and a little closer, despite the fact that I may believe one thing and you may believe another. For example, when this whole controversy comes out about Superman potentially being the destroyer of Earth and not the protector of it, all of a sudden people are questioning, oh, does this guy really care about us, or what are like? They're just listening to somebody saying something about him, and they're not actually going to him personally. And like, not that they had the opportunity, but they are letting somebody else shape their opinion about a person they know nothing personally about. But then you see that even despite all that, Superman still holds true to his values. Even in a pocket universe, he's still coming out saving people. It just goes to show that, like, with all this judgment going around, we don't actually know the people that we're judging, and it's a good thing to at least try to get to understand their side. And if your side truly is the right side, then it will only strengthen your opinion of that side. And if it's not the right side, then you will learn a better path. And you should always want to learn a better path. You shouldn't want to stay where you are in your opinions and your thoughts on the world if it's not good. And so I think this movie did a good job of showing different perspectives and allowing you to feel why the people that believe them feel that way, instead of telling you this is how you should feel when you hear about these things. That's how people learn, I think, and that's how a message can truly be communicated effectively. I like how they're building out the DCU slowly but surely. It doesn't feel hokey. It doesn't feel like they're, some recent work in Marvel has kind of felt more like a product or a commercial or a hook into the next movie, instead of genuinely surprising the audience with a cool character for the sake of it being cool. Like when, spoiler alert, at the end of Eternals, when Harry Styles shows up, I was more surprised at the fact that it was Harry Styles. I don't even remember what character he was playing as. So I don't like the feeling of getting hooked because of the shiny object. I like getting hooked because there's like a twist in the story that's interesting to me. Where was I going with this? Oh, uh, and so when on the top, there was a scene with a talk show, and the Peacemaker, John Cena, was the cameo, was the guest star. Um, that was a cool way to kind of snap me out of the movie for a second and remind me that, oh, we're in the DCU. Like, there's kind of potentially going to be more stuff out there, and it was quick enough to where it just kind of gave me a little taste and then pop back out. Um, and so it was less about, oh, check out John Cena, how cool is it to have John Cena in a movie, and more about, oh, we're in the DCU, we're in an extended universe, this is not just Superman. That's how I took it. It was cool to see giant monsters. The giant monster scenes felt like a giant monster movie, which is really cool. Felt like I was watching, you could easily put Godzilla in there fighting Superman and would have gave me the same sort of gargantuan feel that a monster has in a movie like that. And then kind of a fun thing that they did was show that giant starfish monster fighting the Justice Gang in the background, kind of to say that, this is so normal part of everyday life to where like they could have easily just been talking about the weather. Oh, it's raining outside. Okay, I have so much more. Oh, so this whole hypno glasses thing about how apparently the glasses that Clark Kent wears hypnotizes people that look at him to see a different version of Clark Kent. That's why no one can recognize him. I never knew that. So yeah, I just learned new interesting bits of lore for the first time. Excuse me. Oh, and then we have like this whole exploration of Lex Luthor's evilness, and he really is evil. He's very seemingly normal, not benign, but normal level threatening villain on the outside, and then all of a sudden we see him go down into this universe where he keeps all these collateral human prisoners for collateral and then just offs them at his convenience. And it was funny because like he shows all like the scene that builds up to show all of that evilness, and then as he's floating away because maybe I'll kill that Clark Kent next. It's just like it snaps you right back to, oh wow, he still can't even see that that's Clark Kent. I don't know, I thought that was funny. That was a very funny juxtaposition between serious evilness and funny. There were a lot of recent DC movies where when I was watching them, I felt like I was watching a movie about a character that I could never relate to that character. That character is way too strong, way too powerful. Their life is a fantasy. That's why I did like a lot of Marvel movies, is because when I would watch them, I just see a human who somehow became a hero. And that's kind of cool because it's like, oh, he was just a regular guy. They're all just regular guys before that amazing thing happened to them, and then they became a hero. That's cool. But like Superman, like, I don't know. One of us can't become Superman. He's a super alien from another world. But the way that this movie made Superman relatable was show that he goes through the same struggles that we do as humans, kind of figuring out our identity and trying to have to defend ourselves against oppression, and relationships, and this and that and all these things. And then I thought it was really cool how they made Crypto act like a real life dog. Like, normally I see Crypto kind of just go around and bark bark a little bit, and that's it. Like, that's him being a dog. But this Crypto like jumped on Superman, was in his face, sitting on Lois Lane, like acting like a real dog. And so that was another layer of relatableness that made the movie very immersive. Again, earlier I said I liked how they explored the limits of his powers. The sun was a really, really cool recurring, almost character in this movie, that was time and again the source of Superman's strength. And even like midway through the movie, where Superman kind of has this moment where he returns home. His life is getting too crazy. He's got to heal. He's got to rest up. And I feel like everyone kind of has like a period of time in their life where they went out on their own. They tried to go be independent, and either like life gets too crazy and they have to come back, or they're just visiting. But at some point, you make your way back home after being an adult for a while. And it was a really good representation of how we all kind of just gravitate back home to refresh and rejuvenate ourselves and relax and feel comfortable again. And very good messaging about how, this whole thing about how who you were supposed to be doesn't define you. It's who you decide to be with the choices you make in your life. And emphasizes how your family is not always your blood family. It can be the people that took you in and took care of you and sacrificed the same way that a blood parent would. So kind of like family comes in many forms type of thing. Yeah, and then even the sun being his source of power is it's a very important thing to remember as a human, to get outside, to get some sunshine, to enjoy the fresh air. Like super simple thing to remember, but also super relatable when you see a superhuman also relying on the sun for their strength. Yeah, so there are ways to make DC characters more relatable. I feel like this movie had a lot of good examples of that, and I hope they keep doing that moving forward. I felt like there was some poking fun at Marvel movies, or like friendly, playful banter, but I don't know, I could be reading into it. Like in the end battle scene in Metropolis, there was a building that crashed down that to me looked like the Sanctum Sanctorum, I thought. But it didn't have that window with the big symbol in it. But I thought it looked close enough to it to where it would make you think about it, but it's not like throwing direct shade at Doctor Strange. I don't know, it could be nothing. Oh, and then what's his name that can create any material in the universe? He brought out a hammer at one point that looked like Mjolnir. I don't know, little things like that, maybe nothing. And then a lot of cool classic themes in this movie: Brawn versus Brain, Lex versus Superman. Lex believes that Brain wins every time, and then Superman brings in Crypto, who's just all brain and just a derpy dog. The Daily Planet was really cool in this movie. How they sort of, I really like how everyone's a character in the Daily Planet. Who's their is it their editor? Wendell something, the black dude that's smoking the cigar. Gosh, I forget what his name is in and Superman. But like he was interesting. Jimmy Olsen was interesting. I like how they randomly made him like everyone thought he was attractive. He's like, oh, I don't know, I don't get it. It's just some random, weird, funny thing. Made his character interesting. And then that one dude from SNL was in there. He was funny too. And I like how they just show the chaos of the Daily Planet, and like people are running around and screaming. They're just like chilling. They're just thriving in that chaos. It was cool. Oh, and yeah, it was funny because that MCU comedy style, that's sort of like quippy one-liner, um, that's sort of kind of distilled into this bland, generic form of its former self over the years, felt fresh in this movie. I felt like they took that same style, applied it to DC characters with DC personalities and DC situations, and there were some funny lines in there um, that that made me laugh the same way that MCU comedy used to make me laugh. So I can't really quite put my finger on why it worked, but there's something about this movie kept it fresh. And then the ending scene where Superman and Lois have their moment and they're floating up was really, really sweet, really beautiful. I'm really loving their relationship in this movie. Like I'm invested in it. I believe it. I don't feel like it's just two characters that are supposed to be in a relationship, so let's just slap them together. I feel like I've thought that about the Christopher Reeves Superman 2, but I gotta watch it again. It's been a while. But I would say overall, I was very surprised and honestly very blown away by this movie. I really enjoyed it. 5 out of 5 Supermans. Go watch it. I want to watch it again, and I hope to continue enjoying watching the growth of the DC universe, because I really love Justice League, I really love Batman, and I feel like it's just that Marvel has been all the hype for the past decade. But don't sleep on, as the children say, don't sleep on Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, Batman, Superman, all those all those TV shows. Some of the best writing in TV and video games. Don't forget about Arkham Asylum that I've seen in recent memory. Batman Under the Red Hood, a lot of Batmans. But yeah, really good movie. Bye bye.